All right, again. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back one more time with yours truly, the counselor, Mr. James Horton. Welcome back to my class, all right? We're going to be dealing with a topic today called the breaking of physical, mental, and spiritual prisons. The breaking of physical, mental, and spiritual prisons. My apologies. The breaking of physical, mental, and spiritual prisons. All right, it says in the book of Acts, chapter 5, verses 17 and 19, it talks about how the priests and the Sadducees, which stands for Sadducee, were filled with jealousy, envy, and also talk about how they put the apostles in the city jail prison. Verses 19 talks about God sending one of his angels through the night to the city jail to set the apostles free, right? Our latest thing in Washington has been mind-boggling. It's been very shocking to many people. One thing I try not to do, because I find myself in the spirit the majority of the time, and I can see things sometimes even before it happened. I can feel things. And many of you can also see and feel things. Many of you have history of the past where there's nothing new up under the sun. And things that have happened in the past surfacing in today is not a big surprise to many of us. So I just wanted to kind of put that out. And it's a trip because many of our minds are in prison, and there are many prisons with no bars around them. So we just wanted to touch that. I just wanted to hit you with that. All right. It says on number 1, it says, in your life and within most of your relationships, are you going where you're watching, or are you watching where you're going? In your life, are you going where you're watching, or are you watching where you're going? Right? Now, some would say, what do you mean, counselor? Well, what I mean is going where you're watching, right, it relates to things like finding out it's a fight after school. It relates to something going down at the club tonight. And we're watching and we're looking for something, right? And we probably should be somewhere else. You just got a new job, or you just got hired for a new job, and you must start this Friday, and you have to be there at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. But yet you say, I want to go to the club. See, you're going where you're watching, right, instead of watching where you're going. If you were to be watching where you're going, you would go to sleep and get you some rest and be prepared for that job, for that money, for that stability that you can get from going to the job. So you watch out for the going where you're watching, because you can be going where you're watching and get shot. You can be going where you're watching and get into some serious accident. You're around a lot of people intoxicated and whatever, and it's not a rational thought to put one thing in front of the other. Okay? Number 2. Do you call most of your sexual partners your friends because it helps you to avoid any kind of real responsibility? Do you call most of your sexual partners your friends because it helps you to avoid any kind of real responsibility? Yes or no? Some believe that if we just say friend, that, I don't have to do much for you. If we say friends, I don't have to go half with you on the rent. If we say friends, I don't have to pay on the cable bill, even though I'm watching cable all the time because it got sports on certain channels, right? On the sports channel, or on CNN, or one of those other channels. And so we tend to try to use certain language to help us avoid being responsible. All right? Is that you? Is the question. Number 3. When you become sexually intimate with someone new in your life, do you believe it becomes more or less of an expense or a cost than when you committed to a serious relationship? When you became sexually intimate with someone new in your life, do you believe it becomes more or less of an expense or a cost than when you committed yourself to a serious relationship? I mean, was it cheaper, right, before you got to keep her? Was it cheaper, right? We must just ask yourself that. Was it cheaper? Was it cheaper for him, you know, before y'all hooked up for real, right? Was it cool or better when you can just come through at like, 5 minutes after 12 p.m., or a.m. or whatever, was it cheaper when you can just bounce through once every 2 weeks, right? Because you had somebody else at home. Was it cheaper, right? Was y'all getting along better, right? Or was it a different levels of cost, right? That cost you. All right. Number 4. Do you believe and agree that your anger and your violent behavior has now fueled your goals in your life on a solid foundation? Your anger, do you believe and agree that your anger and your violent behavior has now fueled your goals and your life on a solid foundation? 52 weeks of domestic violence classes. So with who? Me, the counselor, right? That hype, man, that hype stuff gets you in trouble, and it gets you locked up, right? And you will be paying some kind of debt, some kind of price, with your life, with the time you could have been somewhere else. You could have been at a job making major money, right? But yet you got to stop now at least once a week for 52 weeks to come see me, right? So it's just something I want your mind going with me. I want you to roll with me. Strap your seatbelts in. Number 5. Are you committed to pull-ups or pull-downs in most of your relationships? And before you answer this question, I'm not talking about pull-up pampers. Yes or no, right? Before you answer the questions, are you committed to pull-ups or pull-downs? Pull-ups, man, are encouragements. Pull-ups are, pats on the back. Pull-ups are pull you up, man, to pull others up, to make them feel better. Say something great. Say something positive. And don't mix the positive with the negative in what you're trying to do. Don't get so twisted and say, I got to be hard and harsh to give a person a pull-up. Tell a person you're proud of them. Tell them they're doing a good job. Tell them it's a pleasure to be able to be in association with them. It's a benefit to be friends with them. Say something positive instead of something negative. Do a pull-up instead of a pull-down. See, pull-downs is knockdowns, and they don't feel good, and they're not real friendly. It doesn't express love for your friends or for your associates or your partners or your significant others. So be careful and watch out for that. All right? Number 6. What is and what does a pull-up sound like when you're communicating with someone you claim to love? What does that sound like? Like, what does it sound like? If you don't know what it sounds like, I suggest you go and practice in the mirror before you even run up on somebody with what you think is a pull-up. See what it sounds to you. Matter of fact, put your name in there when you're in the mirror, right? Say your name. If your name is JoJo, your name is Janice, Barbara, Fred, Danny, say your own name when you're in the mirror and see how that sounds before you go take it to someone else, so you will know what a pull-up sounds like, right? You can get this thing right and don't have to make the mistakes that many people make. All right? Now, number 7. Do you know most of the greatest musical performers and God-gifted people were the ones we never saw or heard about because they were the ones who couldn't leave their neighborhoods or leave the unhealthy friends and relationships they were trapped in, right? Did you know most of the greatest musical performers and God-gifted people were the ones we never saw or heard about because they were the ones who couldn't leave their neighborhood or leave their unhealthy friends or relationships they were trapped in? They got lots of people. I remember watching shows, reading about individuals that got drafted into the NBA, and they wouldn't leave. They wouldn't even go. They were waiting on them to come get on the plane, to come on down to the college, or for the transition before they got into the full level of the NBA, or whatever sport, right? And they just couldn't leave, right? They were so committed. You hear people today always talking about neighborhoods, always talking about I'm down with the hood. And I just be wanting to hear something like real juicy. I want to hear some juicy stuff, because I want to hear about something new, something different, right? Not just the neighborhood, because the world is bigger than your neighborhood. The world is bigger than your block, right? And if you are stuck in that place, right, in that prison, even, right? Because like I said, there are prisons with no bars around them. You'll never see the world. You will only see the block. You will only see the block, man, and we gotta make it bigger than the block. We gotta make it bigger than the hood, right? Because you only live once, man, and most of the time you only get one shot. You only get one shot, man, and I thank God He gave me more than one shot to get this thing together. I was hard-headed too. I was blind. I was like, the hood is the best place on earth, but I had never been on a plane. I had never went anywhere. I was California bound, right? Matter of fact, I was in the town bound. And so there's only so much to see. It's only, you can go around the town from the east to the west to the north, and then back and do it all over again, but you really ain't been nowhere. You really ain't seen nothing. So I just want to drop that. All right? Now, number 8. Do you have a past or present history of finding ways and means of keeping your sexual partner, ex-partner, friend, spouses in prison to prevent them from escaping and leaving you? Do you have a past or a present history of finding ways and means of keeping your sexual partners, ex-partners, friends, spouses in prison to prevent them from leaving you? There's all kind of ways people do this lockdown thing with their partner. They could be that you all live a little out from, the main city ordinance, and, it's only one car. So, you either play games with taking the battery out the car, you don't let your partner use the car, you hide the keys, different stuff, right? Telling this person or this partner that they can't go anywhere, and things like that, and playing many sick games because you're afraid of someone leaving you, though there are many different levels of imprisoning someone, false imprisonment even, and there are very serious charges that go with that, so be careful on your imprisonment tactics, right? Now, number 9. Are you now or have you ever been in any imprisoned, expired relationships that you couldn't get out? Are you now or have you ever been in any imprisoned, expired relationships that you couldn't get out? Right? Now, many of us have. If you just take enough time and sit back and just review, sit back and go back a little bit, look behind you even, and you may find, like I've found and many others have found, that we've been in those kind of expired relationships. We've reached the 33rd chapter of those relationships, and we couldn't get out, man. And it's like, it's a terrible feeling. Things are not going right. It's been a long time that things have not been going right, but yet you're still stuck, and you're like, where is the key to get out of this prison? Where is the key to get out of this jail? Where is the key to get away from this situation that you may find yourself in? And it's hard sometimes, because it's not actually a physical a bonding hold. It's a mental hold. It's a mental entrapment. It's a grave you even in, right? Where you just have buried up in some kind of grave and you can't move your legs. You can't jump out. You can't get out, right? But the question again to you, have you ever been in that situation, or are you in that situation now, in that imprisoned environment, right? Number 10, is your prison a neighborhood that's not allowing you to see the past? Is your prison a neighborhood that's not allowing you to see past the stop sign or the traffic light of the neighborhood street you're living, the neighborhood street you're from? Is your prison a neighborhood that's not allowing you to see past the stop sign, see past the stoplight, right? Jump over the tracks even, right? Is it holding you back where, you can't even go make a store run outside the neighborhood because you are in prison, right? If they ain't got it at the store in your neighborhood, you ain't going no further than that, right? If they ain't selling steaks at the corner store, you ain't going to Safeway to go get no steak, right? You gonna just say, hey man, they got noodles, so I'm gonna settle for noodles. I'm gonna do the in-prison diet, right? I'm gonna get me a prison diet and just make me a spread, right? Is that your prison? Or are you just making spreads? Is the question, all right? Number 11. Most of you have claimed to be very good licensed drivers through the course of your lives, but how often do you allow God to take the wheel? Most of us have claimed to be very good licensed drivers through the course of our lives, but how often do we allow God to take the wheel, right? I mean, like, you know what I'm trying to say. You really, really know what I'm trying to get at you on. It's like, we good at driving. Yeah, you can burn rubber. Yeah, you can create a sideshow. You can do all that. But do you ever just slow down, bow down even, and allow God to take the wheel? He's a much better driver than we can ever be. He's a much better driver, but we have to trust in his driving. We got to move over to the passenger seat and let him have the wheel. All right? Number 12, we're going to close this out. If you are someone who was once imprisoned in some kind of relationship, please tell us how it feels to finally feel free. If you were someone who was once in prison, how does it feel to feel free? How does it feel to not to just be all up in your head, all just tripping about this, and that, just tripping about when somebody's phone rings, just tripping about just these unhealthy arguments, these unhealthy confrontations, these accusations, your window getting broke out. I mean, how does it feel to not have to deal with that immaturity, that sickness anymore? I hope it feels good, because I know it feels good for me, and I just want to thank you all for allowing me to share with you in the group. I also want you to go on my YouTube channel, Domestic Violence with the Counselor, Mr. James Horton. Domestic Violence with the Counselor, Mr. James Horton on YouTube. Thank you for attending my group.